I want to begin by sharing one of my recent blogs. I call it an open manifesto. It's not like I'm trying to go out there and commit some sort of crime, but the reason why I call it open manifesto is because I would say it's rather a beginning of something new or the end of something that is now passed on and will never happen again. And so, for those who know me, please bear with me. I know you tend people when people know you, they tend to cringe over videos, TikToks, whatsoever. Please do not cringe. Bear with me. I understand you guys know me. Sometimes I tend to be funny. Sometimes I tend to be serious. So I'm a very difficult guy to understand. But I'm gonna try my best to come off as someone you do not know yet. And yes, you might want to take these stories with a grain of salt. That's up to you. But these are real life stories, so it's not made up. And I'm gonna try my best not to lie or make up anything just for clicks. I'm not here for the clicks. I'm here for creating and sharing true content. Anyways, with that said, let's get right into it. So, I once heard a quote that said, "If you don't write your own story, someone else will write it for you." Whether they choose to make you the protagonist or the villain, the enemy or the victor, that's entirely up to them. Now, these words have stuck with me ever since then, and looking back at the years that I've spent on this earth, on my 24th birthday, I began to reflect a lot more on how I wanted to shape my life before I reached the year after. And I began to question everything more often. And I've decided to get back to writing poetry, which I figured was the best way in which I process the world around me, and it helps my mind relax from the chaos outside and within. So here's an open thoughts bracket. Since 2020, the world hasn't been the same, right? We witnessed some of the worst things that could happen to humanity. An outbreak of a virus that was accidentally let out of a research laboratory center which struck nearly 90% of the world's population. And everyone was affected by it, one way or the other, and if even worse, some had lost relatives and close friends, and it was all mess. And I don't want to criticize much on what had happened, but we all saw how things really escalated downwards and how most government officials made some atrocious decisions which led to the sufferings of many people. Since one can sense the sudden change of behavior in people, this change can be described both in good and bad, right? However, on the positive side of things, I believe people have become more grateful, and they've become more grateful for the little they have, and I would say the same for myself as well. I've become more grateful for life, more grateful for my family, more grateful for my friends, my colleagues, people around me, the little income that I get. Well, I'm not going to say that the outbreak was a good lesson for humanity and we needed to learn from it, but at the same time, I want to acknowledge that perhaps it was necessary that it had to happen the way it did. My only fear was that what would occur if the outbreak had lasted much longer. That's some dreadful thoughts, and I would not like to travel over to that side. Now, the day that it was announced the day that it was announced to the public, there was going to be a lesson, or there was going to be some less of restrictions to go out. For me, it felt like it was such a relief, basically. And although I never got to the point of doing everything I listed I would do after the pandemic, and I'm sure most of you guys did. We all had some sort of a list that we wrote down, that we said, when we go out, when we finally come out of this pandemic, I want to do this and this, and I want to achieve this part of my life, and I want to do this, and I want to go to this place. We all had that list. I had that list too, and I never got to the point of doing everything I listed. I still felt very grateful for the opportunity to hit back at life again. I don't know how to describe it fully in words, but it was like the day of a new birth, given another chance to relive life. The mask on our faces were finally going to fall off, and we would come out of the womb of our mother, which were the homes that kept us safe for months. We can't deny the fact that it was stressful, being in one house with the same people, seeing the same faces. Man, we got really bored of that, didn't we? And everything that has happened for the past few years was literally a learning journey for me, including for those who can put it in that perspective. Now, every lesson that I have learned, whether it was an uplifting lesson or a humbling lesson, it has all brought me to this point of my life. A part of me that I want to be able to look back and reflect on. Now, I have decided to write more about my life, starting with questions like, who am I? And where am I going? What kind of character do I want to be remembered by when I exit this earth? Now, while writing this post, this short piece at the Poco in Loop Street, that's actually where I was writing this little blog, I want to bring us back to the one question we all have to ask ourselves. Can we be at peace knowing that we never had the chance to write or tell our own stories? Are we okay with the idea that someone might just write it for us and that they could eventually decide how our fate ended without us as the individuals having a say about it? I just want the listener or the viewer to reflect on that thought for a moment. Are you okay with the idea that someone out there could eventually tell your story and they could paint it however they want to paint the story, your life story? Are you okay with the fact that you have never written down a diary, a journal, or even recorded a video such as this and, post it online or give it to your family members to save? Are you okay with the fact that nothing about your life story is saved somewhere, and then eventually when you pass on, that person could, you know, paint you in whatever light they seem fit? So that's basically the end of this blog, and I wanted to share this thought. But there will be more coming in future, and I would love to just be more vulnerable in front of this camera. I know the internet is not a safe place, but I've learned to accept that, and I'm willing to take the consequence. I'm willing to face the consequences that it brings with. But if it's going to uplift me and put me in a different pedestal as a human being, then I'm willing to do all that. I'm willing to sacrifice everything that I believe I have. So thank you, and I hope to see you next time again for another blog such as this. God bless. Peace.